Today's video is going to be memories from the trophy room, and it's going to cover the black bears. I don't know whether it'll be 1, 2, or 3 sections, but there's 3 bears and there'll be a story with each. The first will be this bear that is all I have is the skull, and the next one will be this chocolate brown bear here, and then the last will be the blonde boar, and the story that goes with them and why I call it Lifetime of Memories, not just a trophy room. This bear was killed with Hal Meekum, and the story behind that is that I was working for Safeway, and they sent me to Vernal, Utah to open a new store up there, and we went out one day looking for a place to hunt pheasants, and as we was riding along, we had seen a house with a pack of dogs, and I told the guys I was with that as soon as I could I was going to come back and talk to them about dogs. And the next day I got borrowed the pickup and went back out there, and I knocked on the door and the lady answered, and she said her husband wasn't home, but he'd be home in probably about 15 or 20 minutes if I wanted to wait. So I went out and sat in the truck, and I got a little nervous just sitting there, so I went in and tell her that I would drive down the road or whatever and then come back. But anyhow, she said she knew as much about the dogs as he did, so come around back and she'd talk to me about them. So we went around there and was looking at them while we was doing that. The husband came, and it was actually Hal Meekum. It's the first time I ever met him, and we got talking. Told his wife that she was fixing supper to fix enough for me, and I said no, I wouldn't want to eat, but he talked me into it, and I stayed. We went in the house. He had a albino deer he'd shot mounted, and we hit it off pretty well on the dogs. I remember one big red dog, I think it was a red dog female he had, that had the muscle tore off its shoulder, and been quite a bear dog, and they was raising all their pups out of that female. And he invited me to go hunting with him the next about 3 days later. He picked me up at 6 in the morning, went and had breakfast, went hunting. I told him I'd lost a dog and it hung itself while I was in Vernal, so he took me all over the basin trying to find a replacement pup. We couldn't do it, but while we were out hunting, he talked me into a deal. He says that if I'd tell him where to go hunting down south so he could get out of some of the snow when it got too deep in the basin, that he would take me on a bear hunt. And I says, all right. I went back to St. George and forgot all about it. And the next summer I got a phone call, and he said, well, when are you coming hunting bears? And I said, well, whenever you can tell me. And he said, well, if you can be here this weekend, we can go. So I went and bought a tag, and got off work about 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Took my wife and kids to Wayne County and left them, and went on over to Green River and then to Crescent Junction, where I met him. I met him about 2 o'clock in the morning. We drove up into the Book Cliffs, got to bed, probably about 3 o'clock, and at 5:30 he got me up and said, we're going out and hunting bears. And we run a big bear that day, and the bear would run along the ledges, drop down in the canyon, cross a creek, and go back up the other side, run along that, and he'd drop back down in. When he dropped down into the creek, he'd lay right in the creek with his head upstream, and he'd lay out with his front feet out like this, and the water would just run over him, and it'd cool him down, and he'd take off again, make that big circle, and come back into the creek. We scattered dogs the full length of that valley with that water running through it. Finally we had to quit, and we lost some of the dogs. We got back to camp with most of them, so we went looking for the rest of the dogs, and when we was gone, one of them come back into camp, a big, long 2-year-old, and he got into the ice chest, and Hal had a huge ham that he was going to use for breakfast ham and to make ham and beans, and that dog ate all but a little teeny piece of it. And by the time we whittled off where the dog had eaten and where there wasn't any tooth marks or whatever, we didn't have much ham left. And I remember I had a fly reel and line and couple of flies, didn't have a pole with me, so for meat with the hunt, I rigged up a pole out of a willow and some baling wire for eyes, and stripped one of the hooks off, dug some little teeny night crawlers, and we was able to catch a limit of fish, and so we had fish instead of ham. And right the last day of the hunt, he said, well, we might just well try it before you have to go, and we'll see what happens. was riding a big long valley on the horses, and the dogs hit a bear and took off. And he sent me to the west, and he went to the east, and whichever one found or could hear the dog was supposed to go to the dogs, and the other, and after about an hour and a half, he hadn't heard anything, was supposed to turn and ride back down and try to find where the person was that had found him. And I actually heard the dogs and got off and went up to them, and I got there, and one old red dog that Hal had was under the tree in a bear, and I thought it was just a cub. And about 20 minutes later, another dog came, and 10 minutes later, another dog came, and after about 45 minutes, all the dogs came through and got the tree, and probably 15 or 20 minutes after that, Hal came down. He said, "No, that's a mature bear, you better shoot it." And I did, and I'm not a real good pistol shot, and I kept shooting a little bit low, and it was trying to climb up the tree away from me, and I broke its back. It came out of the tree and took after a dog, pulling itself with its front legs, and I finally ran down and killed it. And when we opened its mouth, it was a really old sow. Her canines are totally wore off. The teeth between her canines were right down under the gum line. He said she was a very old bear. You can see, probably can't see that, but I'll take some closer pictures to show you. The teeth are actually coming through the jaw here onto the outside. And he said she'd have never made it to the next year. She was a real pretty mahogany red bear. And I sent the hide off to have it tanned, but have it mounted. And then I took a job at the White Mountain Apache Indian Reservation, and while I was there, they sent me a letter that said that the hide was tanned and I need to send them the money, and the post office didn't forward the letter on to me, and I lost that bear hide to somebody. They bought it for the price of the tanning, and I felt really bad about that, but I do have this, and I have the memory. And that was the first time I met Hal, and it's not only a memory of hunting, but a lifetime of friendship that we've had. I've hunted with him a lot after. I actually guided with him. He was the outfitter, and I guided. And but one other story, when we was trailing the second day, trailing a bear, it came to a flat, and you see his track till it got to Sagebrush Flat, and then some grass, and Hal just walked right on straight across that, and I couldn't see anything where he went. I didn't know. When we got to the other side, he showed me the track, and I says, "How did you track that across there? I can't see one thing. I never seen the track or anything." And he said, "Look," and I looked back, still couldn't see anything. And then he explained to me, the bear had come along turning cow pies over and eating the bugs out of them, and you could look back, and when I knew what I was looking for, you could see every place that bear had gone, wandering through there turning the cow pies over. I really learned a lot that time. Learned a lot about hunting from Hal ever since, and that's the first memory of the three. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll show you some close-up pictures of this bear skull, and then we'll go on to the last bear. Is this chocolate brown bear. This was killed with Jerry Bourne, another person out of the Uinta Basin that Hal introduced me to, and we became very close friends. Susan and I and Jerry and Joyce went up on diamond hunting, and we ran a couple of bears the first day with Susan and Joyce, and we didn't get them caught, but we had a lot of fun. And that night we ended up stacking cups to build the biggest pyramids, and you'd thought we were a bunch of teenage kids, but really a lot of fun. Kind of put some saddle sores, I guess, on Susan the next day. She didn't feel quite like going. And so Jerry and I went out alone, and we ended up catching this bear and shot it. And the reason it means so much for me, it's really not that big, but it was a mature bear. But Jerry has since passed away from cancer, and every time I see this bear, I remember him and the friendship we had and the amount of time we had. And the story I'd like to tell about it was not so much the hunt, but the kind of friend Jerry was. I had a daughter in 4-H, and she had a barrel horse, and it had been tipped over in a horse trailer, and it was getting arena sired, so we needed something for her to use in 4-H. I called Jerry and asked him what he had, and he said, well, he had a big red and white paint horse, papered horse, but didn't know much, and he He had a sorrel mare that was really good and was real well broke and trained and probably be a really good horse. Of course, I knew my daughter which one she'd pick. I knew which one she should pick, but I knew which one she would too. So Jerry said he'd bring them both. He couldn't come all the way, but he'd meet me in Richfield. So my daughter and I loaded the horse trailer on the truck and went to Richfield. We got there in the parking lot of the Safeway store. Jerry came in, pulled in. We unloaded both the horses, a big red paint horse and the mare. And my daughter Christine looked him over, and of course she picked the big paint horse, mainly because of his color. And asked Jerry what its name was, and he said it was SB. And he had to get back, so he took the mare and went back to Vernal when he loaded the big paint horse in and brought him to St. George. And she 4-H'd on that horse all year, used him in parades, used him in the events for 4-H, and she ended up winning a saddle with that horse. And when we asked Jerry about the horse, he sent us a copy of the papers, and the horse's name was actually Gallant Knight, but we called him SB. And when she wrote a paper up on winning the saddle, she talked about the 2 Gallant Knights that she had used and had helped her to win that saddle. One of them was a horse, and the other one was Jerry. And that was just the kind of person he was. He'd let you take anything he had and use it, and didn't expect anything in return. And we used that horse all summer, and she won that saddle with it, and then he took it back home. And so this bear, like I say, not the biggest bear in the world, but it's the memory of Jerry and everything he did for our family and how he helped shape my life. And then we'll go to the third and last bear. Okay, the third and last story is of this blonde boar. This is 5.5 years old. I had put in for a tag and was going back hunting bears, and Jerry got a job and couldn't go. So I called Val Robb, and I'd hunted with Val's for years, and his family and mine had got quite close. But he had moved to Moab, and so I hadn't been in contact with him for a while. But I called him and told him I had a bear tag, and is there any way I could come go hunting with him and fill that tag. It was for the Book Cliff, and he said yeah, they were going, so to come on over. So I drove over to his house, pulled up, and had steak dinner rating, and we ate, and the next morning we got up and went hunting. And his son Chris actually started this bear, and we got there just after they turned the dogs loose, and we ended up catching him. I shot him with a .44 Magnum pistol. Again, he's a good boar, but the story is of Val and the things he'd done for us and the kind of person he was. I called him after I'd moved to St. George and I'd quit hunting for a while, and called him and asked me if he had a red tick dog that I could get. And the next thing I knew, I come home from work and there was a red bone dog tied on the front step, and I actually called Val, and he said yeah, he couldn't find a red tick, but he hoped this would do, and if I needed any kind of dog power to go with it, to train him, to get in touch with him, and he'd see that I got it. And the next time I seen Val, it was quite a while later. I heard he had cancer, and he was in the parking lot of the Walmart in Washington, Utah, and went and talked to him. He invited me to go with he and his sons back over to Moab and hunt bears. He was going over there, and I said no, I couldn't. I didn't want to impose. I felt like that. I knew that he was really sick and that he was probably going to die. That I thought he needed to be with his sons and not have other people around. So I declined. And not too long after that, he did die of cancer. So 2 of the 3 bears, the people that I hunted with, died of cancer, and the 3rd one, Hal, had cancer, but he beat it. Talked to him when he was really, really sick, and told him maybe I ought to come up now. I could maybe kick the hell out of him. And he informed me that even on his worst day, he could handle that, and I know he could. So those are the kind of people who run dogs and that I associated with. Hunted in the Book Cliff for deer and elk, and on Diamond Mountain for deer. Hunted bear and lion with them, and a great bunch of people. And so it's the memories of them people and the times we had together that all these things represent. Every time I look at one of these bears, that's what it reminds me of. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment, subscribe, and like. If you have anything else you'd like to hear about in the trophy room, let me know, and I'll try to get a video on it. Thank you.